Today, we are pulling back the velvet curtain on a world where the word budget doesn't exist and common sense is a foreign concept. We are diving deep into the absolute stratosphere of hip-hop excess. Now, we all know that part of being a superstar rapper is the flex. You get the record deal, you get the streaming numbers, and naturally you buy the mansion, the supercar, and the chain that's heavy enough to give you permanent neck damage. It's the American dream on steroids, but sometimes the line between legendary status symbol and what on earth were you thinking gets completely blurred. We're talking about items that serve no functional purpose, items that are guaranteed to be worthless in 5 years, and in one specific case, an item that required a surgeon to bolt it into a human skull. From $1,000,000 porcelain thrones to recursive chain-ception, these are the 8 most bafflingly expensive and undeniably stupid things rappers actually own. We're starting things off at number 8 with the man who redefined modern trap aesthetic, Future. Now, if you're a global icon like Future, you can't exactly walk into a local mall and pick out a hoodie. You have an image to maintain, but Future took the concept of staying fresh and turned it into a full-blown economic anomaly. In a series of incredibly candid interviews, Future dropped a bombshell. He spends roughly $300,000 every single month on designer clothes. Let's do the math on that for a second. That is $3.6 million a year just to stay draped in the latest runway pieces from Gucci, Balenciaga, and custom Virgil Abloh era Louis Vuitton. To put that in perspective, Future is spending more on his monthly fit than most successful doctors, lawyers, or engineers earn in 2 years of hard labor. But the real kicker isn't just the money, it's the shelf life. In the age of Instagram and 24/7's paparazzi, a rapper of Future's stature can almost never be seen in the same outfit twice. This means he is essentially building a $3 million a year museum of clothes that he wears once for a photo and then discards. Even Future himself has recognized the madness. During an episode of Complex's Sneaker Shopping, he looked at his mounting pile of boxes and muttered, "I gotta stop, it's crazy." But then, without missing a beat, he proceeded to drop nearly $40,000 on sneakers in that single afternoon. When your monthly clothing budget could fund a luxury mansion in the suburbs, you've reached a level of fashion insanity that defies all logic. It's not a wardrobe, it's a black hole for capital. Coming in at number 7 is the self-proclaimed first to everything, Soulja Boy. Big Draco is famous for claiming he pioneered every trend in hip-hop, from YouTube virality to video game consoles. So naturally, he had to be the first rapper to own a phone that cost as much as a used car. Back when the iPhone 6 was the hottest piece of tech on the market, Soulja Boy decided that the standard Apple finishes were too pedestrian. He dropped $6,000 on a custom 24-karat gold-plated iPhone 6. Now, compared to the millions we're talking about later in this list, $6 grand might seem like a bargain, but from a common sense perspective, this is one of the worst financial moves you can make. Why? Because consumer electronics are the only luxury goods on earth that are guaranteed to be obsolete in 3 years. This was an iPhone 6, the phone famous for Bendgate, where the chassis would literally warp if you sat on it. It had a battery that would quit the moment the weather got cold, and a processor that struggled with basic multitasking. Today, that $6,000 gold brick is a shiny, expensive paperweight. It can't run the latest iOS, it can't open modern apps without crashing, and its camera looks like a toy compared to today's tech. Soulja Boy spent $6,000 on a status symbol that aged like milk. It's a permanent monument to the fact that no matter how much gold you wrap around a gadget, the software inside is always running toward the graveyard. At number 6, we have 21 Savage. If you've followed his career lately, you know he's entered his grown man phase, wearing tailored suits, discussing credit scores, and focusing on his British-American heritage. But before the rebrand, 21 was the poster child for iced-out street style. Specifically, he was known for a pair of diamond stud earrings valued at a staggering $500,000. Think about the physical reality of that. $500,000 dangling from 2 tiny, fragile holes in your earlobes. We've all felt that momentary surge of adrenaline when we think we've lost an AirPod. Now imagine that feeling, but the AirPod is actually a $250,000 rock. These weren't just large diamonds, they were stones of such high clarity and carat weight that they required their own security detail and specialized insurance. Imagine trying to perform a high-energy set, jumping into a crowd, or even just taking a shower while wearing a literal mortgage on each side of your head. The weight alone probably required a pep talk for his ears every morning. Eventually, 21 Savage himself reached a breaking point. In a famous interview on The Breakfast Club, he announced he was done with the heavy jewelry because it made him a target for robbery and was, quite simply, a waste of money. It takes a lot of maturity to admit that $500,000 worth of ear ice is just a liability waiting to happen. Apparently, 21 Savage was his own biggest fan back in 2017 because he lands on our list again at number 5. This time, it's for a piece of jewelry that redefined the self-portrait trend in a way that was as impressive as it was weird. He commissioned a custom pendant that was a 100-carat VVS diamond replica of his own face. This wasn't a cartoon or a rough sketch. It was a hyper-realistic 3D diamond bust created by the master jewelers at Raffaello & Company. They used 3D modeling software to capture his exact likeness, including his signature 21 inches forehead tattoo and the specific texture of his facial hair. It reportedly took 2 months of painstaking hand setting to finish, but the weirdness didn't stop there. The back of the pendant featured a diamond-encrusted hockey mask, a tribute to Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th. The entire piece was a massive chunk of gold and diamonds shaped like himself. While the craftsmanship is world-class, the concept is the ultimate display of ego. Most people carry a photo of their family in their wallet. 21 Savage carried a 6-figure diamond statue of his own head around his neck. It's the pinnacle of I've made it, and I want everyone, including myself, to know it. It's heavy, it's flashy, and it's essentially the most expensive mirror in the world. Soulja Boy is back at number 4, and this time he's brought a toy. This might be the most immature flex in the history of the rap game. Soulja dropped $250,000 on a remote control Lamborghini chain. Now, let's be perfectly clear. This wasn't just a pendant that looked like a car. It was a literal, functioning, battery-powered RC car that was completely covered in thousands of tiny diamonds. The car sat on a massive, oversized gold chain, and yes, it actually worked. Imagine being in a VIP section of a high-end club surrounded by industry moguls and celebrities, and you decide to unhook your necklace, put it on the floor, and start driving it around like you're in a suburban driveway on Christmas morning. Soulja Boy spent $250,000 on a gadget that costs $30 at a hobby shop just because he wanted to see it glitter while it performed donuts on the floor. It serves no purpose other than to scream that he has so much money he's run out of adult things to buy. It's a toy, a literal child's toy, and while it definitely won him some attention, it mostly left the world wondering why a grown man was wearing a motorized vehicle around his neck. Taking the bronze medal for absolute financial absurdity is the cash money mogul Birdman. This purchase is legendary not just for its price, but for the timing. Back when Birdman was in the middle of a massive legal war with Lil Wayne, who was suing him for $51 million in unpaid royalties, Birdman decided to show the world where the money was going. He bought a $1 million solid gold toilet. Birdman didn't keep this a secret. He posted a video to Instagram flaunting the throne in his Miami mansion. According to insiders, the base was gold-plated, but the seat and the lid were solid 14-karat gold. Think about the message that sends. While your flagship artist is telling the world you're a thief, you're literally flushing wealth down $1 million toilet. It is the ultimate I don't care to his critics and his debtors. It's not just a stupid purchase, it's an aggressive display of power. Plus, from a practical standpoint, gold is a cold, hard metal. For $1 million, you'd think he'd at least invest in a heated seat. Instead, he just has a very expensive way to do something everyone else does for free. At number 2 is the biggest boss himself, Rick Ross. Rose is a master of branding, but he took his self-image to a bizarrely recursive level with this piece. Ross spent $1.5 million on a self-portrait chain made of rare, pure yellow diamonds, but it's the design that makes it legendary. The pendant is a 3D bust of Rick Ross's head, but on that bust, the miniature Rick Ross is wearing a chain, and on that tiny chain, there is another even tinier version of Rick Ross's face. This is what the internet famously dubbed chain-ception. It is a $1.5 million recursive loop of vanity. It's Ross paying 7 figures to wear a diamond version of himself, who is also wearing a diamond version of himself. The chain is a masterpiece of jewelry engineering. Yellow diamonds are among the rarest and most expensive on the planet, and the detail in the beard, the sunglasses, and the tiny miniature chains is flawless. But at the end of the day, it's $1.5 million spent on a meta joke. It's the ultimate flex because it serves no artistic purpose purpose other than to show that Rick Ross's favorite thing in the world is Rick Ross. Finally, we have reached the undisputed heavyweight champion of What on Earth Were You Thinking? Lil Uzi Vert and the pink forehead diamond. In 2021, Lil Uzi Vert revealed that he had spent $24 million, a price tag he reportedly spent 4 years paying off in installments, on a massive, nearly 11-carat natural pink diamond from Elliot Eliente. But he didn't put it on a ring or a watch. He had it surgically implanted into the center of his forehead. Uzi's logic was that he was afraid he'd lose a $24 million ring, so the only safe place was to bolt it to his skull. But the stupidity of this purchase is threefold. First, biology. Your body generally doesn't like having a massive piece of carbon forced through your skin. Uzi posted photos of the diamond bleeding and admitted his body was trying to reject the implant. Second, security. At the 2021 Rolling Loud Festival, Uzi went stage diving. As he hit the crowd, a fan literally ripped the $24 million diamond out of his forehead. Luckily, he didn't lose the stone, and his skin eventually healed, but for a moment, he was a walking $24 million target with a "pull here" sign on his face. As of 2026, Uzi is still dealing with the fallout of the piercing, occasionally taking it out and putting it back in. It is, without a doubt, the most expensive, painful, and bafflingly stupid thing any rapper has ever owned. There you have it. From gold toilets to forehead gems, these rappers prove that when the money gets long, the logic gets short. Which of these was the biggest waste of cash? Let me know in the comments.